Hi, I'm Troy Francis. I'm a writer and a dating dynamics expert. I've written over 11 books about dating, game, the sexual marketplace, social dynamics around dating, and so on and so forth. I've also written hundreds of articles, and I've coached guys from all over the world to help them with their dating and relationship lives. And the thing is, today we live in what's become a global sexual marketplace. Things have really shifted and changed in the last 15, 20 years or so. And even 10 years ago, we didn't have things like Instagram, we didn't have things like Tinder or the other dating apps. And what those technologies have done is really changed up the dating marketplace, because now we're in a situation whereas before, guys were, I suppose, competing with other guys in their environment, in their vicinity, if you like, in order to date the eligible girls. And now all of a sudden they find themselves competing on a global level, because if your girl is attractive and she has an Instagram page, then that page can be viewed by guys all over the world. And we're talking some of the top tier guys on the planet, guys who are wealthy, who are well put together, very intelligent, very charming, own businesses, own international properties, have interests all over the world. And there's nothing to stop any of these guys from reaching out and sending a message in the DMs to the girl that maybe you like, and them establishing a relationship. So dating has become globalized, if you like. And what that means is that a girl, who maybe lives in a small village in Russia, can be approached by a guy in Dubai, and they can start a conversation over message, and then that girl can maybe travel over to Dubai to meet with that guy. And so it's really changing the way that we behave as human beings. And even though maybe those stories, maybe those instances don't happen as much as some would suggest, nevertheless, it can happen. And what that's caused is a sort of inflation in the dating market, whereby people are being less keen perhaps to settle, because there are so many opportunities out there, because they can see what's out there on the market, they can see the people that they could potentially get to date. Girls and some guys indeed they look at all the likes that they're getting on Instagram, and that boosts their ego, and it means that they're going to look at the people who come to them, and want to date them locally, perhaps more critically. It used to be the case a few years ago where, you could dress up, put some nice clothes on, maybe go to the local bar, and without such huge effort, you would be able to meet a nice girl to date and to get into a relationship with. Or, you could even do it at the local church, or, your local community group, or whatever it is, that you're involved with. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen now, because of course it does, but we are now living in this much more pressurized sort of global environment where the competition has increased exponentially, and really you're competing with all of the top guys on the planet. And as a dating coach and as somebody who writes about these issues, I do have guys contacting me a lot, and I'm aware of guys leaving comments for me and dropping me messages, and they're finding this environment increasingly challenging. They're finding it difficult. They're finding that it's harder to get dates. They're finding that girls are less responsive when they get their contact details. So somebody might get a girl's phone number, and then he's messaging her and she's not responding, or he might get her Instagram, but then he sends her a DM and she doesn't respond, and all of this kind of thing. And even when she's agreeing to a date, then she's not actually turning up and coming out on that date, so flaking and so on and so forth. So what we seem to be seeing is that for guys, the environment is becoming increasingly challenging. And so, we need to think about, okay, so given that now we exist in this new paradigm, given that dating has changed so significantly, what do we do about that? And I've been working in this space for many years. Really since 2004, I've been involved with this dating strategy space. And I've learned a lot over that time. I've met a lot of people who have been professional dating coaches. people who travel the world, who've met girls and had affairs with women from all over the world. Incredibly experienced guys, some of the best in the world. And obviously I've also been in many thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of interactions myself. And, you know, I've also observed clients that I've worked with and their interactions as well. So I've got a pretty good handle on what's going on the ground. And so it struck me that it was really time to put together a product or some sort of course or some sort of presentation, let's say, that would distill everything that I've learned over that period of time, really in an effort to try to help guys to stand out and to just to get what they want and what they deserve in a marketplace that, as I say, is tricky. It's tricky for everybody, and it's tricky for girls as well. But primarily, my audience is guys, and this particular product is aimed largely at guys. But there are principles within it that are universal. But I mean, just talking about the guys' situation, the competition, the sense that I'm just not sure what to do in this situation anymore. I'm not sure if I will meet somebody. You know, I want to live this kind of lifestyle, but I don't feel like I've got the options, and so on. It's very tough for a lot of men out there, and I do work with clients face to face. You know, I'm a coach. I have some coaching clients, but my capacity for coaching is not that big because I also do a lot of writing and other content creation. And so it struck me that a good thing to do would be to create a video presentation that would encapsulate all of this stuff, that would encapsulate all of this knowledge that I've acquired over that time, and really give people the tools that they need to excel in, you know, what is this kind of tricky marketplace. You know, really these days, the idea of game, in inverted commas, which is basically the idea of social skills and how to initiate a conversation with somebody that you're attracted to, and then move that on into a date or a relationship or more. In a way, game is no longer enough. You know, you need more than that. You need that sort of X factor. You need that extra special spark. And what I've observed with clients that I've worked with is that even if they know all the things that they're sort of supposed to be doing, even if they know some of the techniques and some of the theories about dating and so on, they're still not getting the results because they just lack that sort of X factor. They lack that kind of extra special thing that really makes an impression on women and on the people that they meet. And so they're sort of getting passed over. They're getting overlooked. And the girls are going onto their smartphones and they're seeing these shinier, more exciting options on the smartphone, and so my guy, the client, is getting passed over. And so I think, well, what can I do about this? How can I help guys to acquire that X factor, that kind of exciting, sexy sort of bad boy persona that really cuts it in this current dating marketplace? And some of this stuff is quite difficult to teach in a way because it's not really about techniques, and it's not about lines, it's not about manipulation and stuff. It's about a very fundamental mindset shift, which is going to take you from being sort of the average Joe to being somebody who is effective in these tough dating scenarios. You know, you've got standout, you've got edge, you've got something about you. That's what you want. You want girls to be talking to each other about you and saying, he's got something about him. And this is what this course is going to give you. This is what this course takes you through. So there's a lot of very, very deep, in-depth mindset stuff in this course that will literally reprogram your mind, your perception of yourself, and indeed the perception of other people to you in a really positive way that's going to help you to really get where you want to be. In terms of what we cover in the course, it starts off with an overview of this global marketplace that I'm talking about. It really gets into the sort of sociological backdrop that we are seeing, because globalization obviously is happening in commerce, but it's also sort of happening in the way people interrelate as well. And it's a very interesting time for sure. And we need to look at it and we need to appreciate it, accept it really, and think about how we adapt. So I go into that, and then I go into the mindset technologies that I teach throughout the course, which are basically around charisma, which is something that I've been studying well, for all of my career, really, but I've certainly been studying on a very deep level in the last year or so. So I've been reading a lot of the research, following a lot of the latest findings on charisma as a science. So I really get into that in that section, and it incorporates different exercises that you can do and different techniques you can use in order to really increase your personal charisma. And then I talk about the dark triad. I talk about being a bad boy and what makes a bad boy, because bad boys are so attractive to women, aren't they? We all know this. You only have to look at 50 Shades of Grey to see that. The millions and millions of copies of that were sold, that have been translated into so many languages. The bad boy archetype is so attractive, but what is it? How does it break down? What does it really mean? And I think a lot of guys are kind of nice guys. I mean, I'm a nice guy, I would say. I think many people that I know who've come into this space are actually pretty nice guys, and they sort of lack that edge. They sort of lack that ability to show that metal in a way, And I spent a lot of time studying what psychologists and law enforcement agencies and indeed business people have studied, which is this idea about the dark triad, which are these characteristics of narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy, which, while they might be in some ways reprehensible, they are also characteristic of people who are very successful, both in the world of business and also in attraction and dating as well. So what I sought to do was to sort of break down those elements, and this is something that I've done in a book that I wrote called How to Be an Arsehole, which is which you can get. But this course goes into far more detail about it, really, and sort of expands on what I wrote about in that book, and just really brings it to life. Because what I want to say to guys is it's not about you becoming that Christian Grey character from 50 Shades of Grey, but it is about how can you take some of these learnings and sprinkle them on and sort of spice up your character a little bit. So that's really important. Then we talk about radical differentiation, which is basically self-actualization. It's being unafraid to be yourself and to stand out regardless. Too many people are samey, too many people are mediocre, beige, a little bit boring. We've got to stop that. We've got to get you out of that. We've got to get you in touch with what it is that makes you different, and we've got to get you communicating that out there in the dating marketplace. And then there's a whole section, really, really long, in-depth section on approach technology. So this is basically the dating stuff. This is the game stuff. So now that you've shifted your mindsets, and when you go through the course, it really is a deep, immersive experience. It really will shift your mindset. As I say, it really will reprogram the way you look at yourself and the way you look at the world. And when you've gone through that process, then we get the practical stuff that you do on the ground. So, you see the girl that you find attractive. What do you say to her? How do you approach her? What are the tools that you use in order to have a conversation with her that is going to be fun for both of you, but it's also going to be kind of exciting, and she's going to want to see you again. Because even if you're just using the dating apps, and the same principles apply over messaging on dating apps, by the way, and that is something I cover in Text Game Mastery, which is a book that I will give away with the course also. But even if you're meeting people via the apps, you're still then going to have to meet up with them in person. And if you don't have the right sort of power, presence and warmth and charismatic elements, and we talk a lot about Robert Greene and different charismatic elements that he identifies, including things like mystery, adventurousness, risk-taking, uninhibitedness, and all of these kinds of things. If you're not showing those things, then she's likely to find you a little bit dry, a little bit bland, and it might be that it doesn't go any further, or you don't get a second date, or things just end. So you want to be able to make that great impression in real life, in person, and that's what the course teaches you to do. And with the approach technologies, you know exactly what you're saying. You know not so much structure, because I really like a very natural approach, and I really like a really honest approach as well. I think dating strategy should be honest. I think guys should say what they want. I think they should be upfront with women, and vice versa as well. I think we should get away from any sense of, trying to sort of be tricky or manipulative or anything like that. None of that stuff's any good. It doesn't do us any good. What we want to do is be direct and be very honest and very open. But at the same time, obviously, we've got to have that kind of charismatic persona that's a little bit exciting, a little bit interesting as well. So we go into depth about how you achieve all of that within this course. As I say, it's all intense stuff. You might be thinking, well, is it for me? You know, if you're a beginner, you might be thinking, well, is this the kind of thing that I should be investing in, getting on board with? Absolutely yes, because if you are a beginner to this stuff, or if you've been having issues in your dating life, or you're not kind of getting the results that you want, then this is absolutely the product that will kickstart things for you. Because, as I say, this will completely reprogram your mind, the way you look at yourself, the way you perceive yourself, and the way you present yourself. And that in turn will reboot the reality around you, because the reality that you project ends up getting taken on by other people. So you're presenting yourself in this different way. And this isn't about lying, this isn't about pretending to be someone you're not. It's just about dialing up those aspects of your character which are kind of exciting and exhilarating and that she's going to want to be around, rather than the ones that she isn't. So you're going to be doing all that, and it's going to mean that people are going to just be more drawn to you naturally. So if you're a beginner, that's great. And the section on the dating technologies, the section on the approach technologies, is pretty much an A to Z of all you need to know about, you know, game. I mean, if there was one product that you were going to buy about dating and game and so on, then it should be this, because it just covers everything that you need to know, from basically seeing the girl to making that approach, to taking her contact details, and then, you know, and then what you do after that in terms of the messaging and so on. So it really covers all of your bases in terms of at least the approach and getting the dates, or getting those initial meetings in. Some people might be saying, well, yeah, but, you know, is this just going to be cheesy chat up lines? Is this about, you know, kind of like old worn out techniques? No, absolutely not. This, as I say, is a product that is much more focused towards shifting your mindset. And in the end, you know, techniques and things are great. There are some funny lines that people use and things like that. But ultimately, what is going to make the difference is how you are inside, how you are as a person, and how that emanates from you. And this course helps you to emanate this kind of just really exciting, edgy sort of persona. You know, it just really helps to bring out that kind of bad boy sort of devil-may-care kind of thing, which is going to put you into the attractive category. Because remember that girls tend to view guys as being, you know, maybe he's attractive and he's a, you know, he's somebody that I find very arousing, versus somebody who's a bit more of a provider, a bit more of a stable sort of a dude. And really you want to be in that first camp, at least at the beginning, because it's just much more visceral and real for her. So what this course really does teach you to get into that category. And that's not to say, you know, you can end up dating her, in a relationship with her, even marrying her afterwards if you like, and if things go well between you. But at first you definitely need to trigger that sort of that exciting side, you know, and get her to feel that as well. And that's what we teach you to do. Age, you might be thinking, well, am I too old? Am I too young? Blah, blah, blah. As long as you're over 18, this is absolutely applicable really to anybody. I mean, I'm in my 40s now. These are the techniques that I use. Equally, I've taught clients from the ages of 18, 19, right up, all the way up to, you know, into their 60s. And this stuff just works across the board, because the principles are very, very fundamental. The principles are all based in human psychology and in mindset, and that doesn't change. It doesn't really matter what age you are. I mean, you might tweak things a bit differently depending on how old you are, but it doesn't fundamentally change. So age is not the issue here. The issue is mindset and how you present yourself to the world. So I really hope that you will come on this journey with me, as they say. I really hope that you will take the time to look at this and to invest in this course, and it really is an investment, because, as I say, this isn't just a surface level sort of thing where you're saying, oh, yeah, I'll learn a few lines and then, you know, I'll try them out at the club next weekend. This is a much more fundamental, bottom-up sort of personality shifting, paradigm shifting, really immersive, transformative experience. And you know, I put a lot of work into this. I'm really, really proud of it. It is the distillation of everything that I've learned over the last well, 16, 17 years or so. So there's a lot in there. It's dense, and you know, you need to take your pace with it, but it's going to teach you so much. It's going to give you everything that you need to equip you in, as I say, what is quite a challenging dating terrain at the moment for everybody. So if that's of interest to you and you want to find out more, then I do encourage you to click the link below, and you can find out a bit more about the course and what it entails and everything. But as I say, this is one that I'm really, really proud of. I'm very happy with the way that it's turned out, and there is a lot in there that will change your life for the better when you take it on board.